Here's the uncomfortable truth. You're not stuck because life is hard. You're stuck because your mindset is weak. Read that again. Every day you say you want more success, more discipline, more control. But when pressure hits, you fold. When fear shows up, you hesitate. When doubt speaks, you listen. That's the real problem. Not your past, not your situation, your mental attitude. And if you don't fix it now, it will quietly destroy your future. Because success doesn't come to the talented. It comes to the mentally unbreakable. So here's the question. Are you ready to stop reacting and start commanding your life? In the next few minutes, you'll learn how to build a mindset that doesn't crack under pressure, doesn't quit under stress, and doesn't depend on motivation. Let's start with the foundation. Take full responsibility for your life. It sounds simple, almost obvious, but in reality, it's one of the hardest mental shifts a person can make. Most people move through life reacting, blaming circumstances, pointing fingers at the past, or waiting for someone else to fix what feels broken. But the moment you decide that everything in your life, your results, your habits, your mindset is your responsibility, something powerful happens. You take your power back. Responsibility is not about guilt or shame. It's about ownership. It's about saying, this is my life, and I have control over how I respond, how I grow, and how I move forward. That mindset alone separates leaders from followers, creators from complainers. Blaming is easy. It gives temporary comfort. It allows you to explain away failure without changing anything. But comfort is expensive. It costs you growth, discipline, and ultimately your future. When you blame, you give control away. When you take responsibility, you reclaim it. Think about your current situation. Your habits, your daily routine, your results, they didn't appear randomly. They were built through repeated choices. Maybe unconscious, maybe influenced by others, but still choices. And if choices created your current life, new choices can reshape it. Napoleon Hill emphasized that your thoughts are the starting point of all achievement. Responsibility begins in the mind. It begins when you stop saying, this happened to me, and start saying, what can I do about it? The shift removes excuses instantly. It forces clarity. It demands action. Responsibility also strengthens your emotional resilience. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstances, you begin to see challenges as opportunities to respond differently. You stop asking, why is this happening? And start asking, how can I use this? It shows up in small moments. Waking up when you said you would, doing the work even when you don't feel like it, following through on commitments when no one is watching. These small acts build identity, and identity shapes destiny. Responsibility doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It acts in imperfect situations. It adapts. It learns. It grows stronger through pressure. When you fully embrace responsibility, you stop being controlled by external events. You become internally driven. You become focused. You become dangerous in the best possible way, because now your progress is no longer dependent on luck, approval, or timing. You move with intention. You think with clarity. You act with purpose. And that is where real transformation begins. Discipline your thoughts daily. Discipline your thoughts daily, because whether you realize it or not, your mind is always active, always producing ideas, interpretations, and stories about your life. If left unchecked, it drifts toward negativity, doubt, and fear. That's not weakness, it's human nature. But leaving your mind undisciplined is like leaving your future unattended. Your thoughts are not harmless. They are instructions. They shape your emotions, influence your decisions, and ultimately determine your results. So if your thinking is scattered, reactive, or negative, your life will mirror that chaos. Mental discipline starts with awareness. You begin to notice what you're thinking throughout the day, not just occasionally, but consistently. You catch those automatic thoughts. I'm not ready. This is too hard. What if I fail? And instead of accepting them as truth, you challenge them. That's where discipline begins, not in controlling every thought, but in choosing which ones deserve your attention. Your mind responds to repetition. Whatever you think about repeatedly becomes familiar. Whatever becomes familiar starts to feel true. That's why negative thinking can feel so convincing. It's been repeated so often. But the same principle works in your favor when used intentionally. You start feeding your mind stronger thoughts. I can figure this out. I am improving every day. I handle challenges with confidence. At first, it may feel unnatural. That's because your mind is adjusting. It's being trained. Just like a muscle, it resists at first, then adapts, then strengthens. Disciplining your thoughts also means controlling your mental environment. What you consume matters. The conversations you engage in, the content you watch, the people you surround yourself with, all of it influences your thinking patterns. If you constantly expose yourself to negativity, your mind absorbs it. If you consistently feed it growth, clarity, and purpose, your thinking begins to align with that. Mental discipline is also about focus. In a world full of distractions, your ability to direct your thoughts toward what truly matters becomes a superpower. Instead of jumping from one idea to another, you train yourself to stay locked in on your goals. You think about your vision daily. You visualize progress. You reinforce belief. And over time, your mind stops working against you and starts working for you. There's also emotional discipline connected to thought control. Your thoughts trigger emotions. If you allow negative thinking to dominate, your emotional state follows. But when you guide your thoughts intentionally, your emotions become more stable, more controlled, more aligned with your goals. Control your inner dialogue. Control your inner dialogue, because the most powerful conversation you will ever have is the one happening inside your own mind. It runs all day, shaping how you see yourself, how you respond to challenges, and how far you're willing to go. Most people don't even realize it's there, yet it quietly directs their confidence, their decisions, and their results. Your inner voice can either become your greatest ally or your biggest limitation. Left unchecked, it often leans toward doubt. You're not ready. You might fail. You're not as capable as others. These thoughts don't arrive loudly. They slip in subtly, disguised as logic or caution, but repetition gives them power. And over time, they begin to feel like facts. Controlling your inner dialogue starts with awareness. You begin to notice the tone, the patterns, the words you use with yourself. You observe without immediately reacting. That small pause creates space, and in that space, you gain control. Instead of accepting every thought, you start questioning it. Is this helping me or holding me back? Is this truth or just habit? This is where transformation begins. You don't silence your inner voice, you retrain it. You replace passive, limiting language with intentional, empowering statements. I can learn this. I handle pressure well. I adapt and improve. At first, it may feel forced. That's because your mind is used to the old script, but consistency rewires that pattern. The more you speak strength into your mind, the more natural it becomes. Your inner dialogue also defines how you interpret events. Two people can face the same challenge and experience completely different realities, based solely on what they tell themselves about it. One says, "This is too much." The other says, "This is training me." Same situation, different mindset, different outcome. When your inner dialogue is disciplined, it becomes a tool. It keeps you focused when distractions appear. It stabilizes you when emotions rise. It pushes you forward when motivation drops. Napoleon Hill built his philosophy around the idea that thoughts become reality. Your inner dialogue is the mechanism through which those thoughts are repeated, reinforced, and eventually expressed in action. Controlling your inner dialogue is not about perfection. It's about direction. It's about choosing growth over doubt, clarity over confusion, strength over hesitation, again and again until it becomes your default setting. Stay positive under pressure. Stay positive under pressure, because pressure is not the exception in life. It's the environment where growth actually happens. Anyone can feel confident when things are smooth, predictable, and comfortable. But real mental strength reveals itself when situations become uncertain, demanding, and intense. Pressure tests your mindset. It exposes your habits. It challenges your emotional control. And in those moments, your ability to remain positive becomes a decisive advantage. Positivity under pressure is not about pretending everything is fine. It's about maintaining clarity when everything feels chaotic. It's about holding your focus when distractions and doubts try to pull you away. Most people react to pressure emotionally. Stress builds and their thinking narrows. They rush decisions, lose patience, and allow frustration to take over. But a disciplined mind approaches pressure differently. It slows down internally, even when the outside world speeds up. You begin by controlling your breathing, your posture, your immediate reaction. That physical control influences your mental state. Instead of spiraling, you stabilize. Then comes perspective. Pressure often magnifies problems, making them feel larger than they are. A trained mindset steps back and evaluates what actually needs to be done, what is within my control, what is the next clear action. This shift turns pressure into a structured challenge instead of an overwhelming force. Staying positive under pressure also means trusting your preparation. The work you've done beforehand, the skills you've built, the habits you've developed becomes your foundation. Instead of doubting yourself, you rely on what you've trained. Confidence under pressure is not built in the moment. It's revealed in the moment. There's also an element of choice. Even under stress, you still choose your response. You can choose panic or presence. You can choose frustration or focus. That choice might feel small, but repeated consistently, it shapes your identity. A strong mindset begins to associate pressure with opportunity. Instead of avoiding it, you recognize it as a signal. This is where growth is happening. This is where I prove my discipline. This is where I separate myself. Napoleon Hill emphasized persistence and belief, especially during challenging moments. Pressure becomes the stage where those qualities are tested and strengthened. It shows up when deadlines are tight, when expectations are high, when outcomes matter. In those moments, staying positive keeps your thinking sharp, your actions precise, and your energy directed toward solutions instead of problems. Pressure doesn't have to break you. It can refine you. Act despite fear and doubt. Act despite fear and doubt, because waiting to feel ready keeps you stuck. Fear will show up every time you step into something bigger. Doubt will question your ability. Move anyway. Progress begins the moment you take action in uncertainty. Each step weakens hesitation and builds courage, turning resistance into momentum and intention into real growth. Feed your mind with growth. Feed your mind with growth, because what you consume shapes how you think. Every idea, conversation, and piece of content leaves an imprint. Choose material that strengthens focus, belief, and clarity. Surround yourself with voices that challenge and elevate you. Consistent mental input creates stronger thoughts, sharper decisions, and a mindset aligned with progress. Persist when others quit. Persist when others quit, and because most people stop at discomfort, not at their limit. The moment it gets hard, they step back. You step forward. Consistency in difficult moments builds an edge that talent alone cannot match. Keep showing up when motivation fades. Keep executing when results are slow, and keep moving when progress feels invisible, turning pressure into quiet strength. Focus on solutions, not problems. Focus on solutions, not problem, because where attention goes, energy flows. Problems drain, solutions direct. Train your mind to ask better questions. What can be improved? What can be done next? What is within control? This shift transforms confusion into clarity, keeping your thinking productive and your actions aligned with progress instead of frustration. Build belief through action. Build belief through action, because confidence grows from proof, not promises. Every small win strengthens your self-image. Take consistent steps, even when they feel insignificant. Show yourself that you follow through. Repeated execution turns effort into evidence, and evidence into unshakable belief, shaping a mindset that trusts its own ability. Refuse to let circumstances define you. Refuse to let circumstances define you, because conditions change, but identity is chosen. Challenges, setbacks, and limitations appear in every path. Decide who you are regardless of them. Focus on your response, your standards, and your direction. This mindset separates you from your situation, keeping your growth independent of external factors. At this point, you see it clearly. This was never about motivation. It was about control. Control of your thoughts, control of your reactions, control of your direction. Every keynote you've heard connects to one truth. Your life changes the moment your mindset becomes disciplined. Not perfect, not fearless, disciplined. When you take responsibility, your power returns. When you control your thoughts, your focus sharpens. When you persist, you separate yourself. And suddenly, life stops happening to you. It starts responding to you. Now pause for a second. Look at your current life, your habits, your results, your mindset. Is this really your full potential, or just a reflection of undisciplined thinking? Because the gap between where you are and where you want to be is mental. Close that gap, and everything changes.